The laboratory's warning sirens pierced the pre-dawn silence as Sarah Chen frantically encrypted her final transmission. Her hands flew across the holographic interface, the quantum particles dancing beneath her fingertips, telling a story that would shake the foundations of the galaxy, if she could only get the data out before they arrived. The door to her lab exploded inward in a shower of metallic shards. Through the smoke strode 3 hegemony enforcers, their crystalline armor refracting the emergency lights into deadly prismatic patterns. Their faceless masks turned toward her with mechanical precision. Dr. Sarah Chen, the lead enforcer's voice resonated with artificial harmonics. You are charged with unauthorized quantum manipulation and violation of protected knowledge protocols. Surrender for immediate extraction. Sarah's hand hovered over the terminal's emergency purge button. The quantum realm doesn't belong to the hegemony, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. You can't control what was meant to be free. The lead enforcer raised its particle lance. Final warning. Submit or... Sarah slammed her hand down on the purge button. The quantum computer's core pulsed once, bright enough to leave afterimages dancing in her vision. In that same instant, she felt a searing pain in her chest as the enforcer's weapon discharged. She awoke in darkness, suspended in a containment field aboard what could only be a hegemony extraction vessel. The air hummed with suppression fields designed to inhibit both movement and thought, but they couldn't suppress the burning sensation in her chest where the particle beam had struck, or the strange new awareness that seemed to pulse in rhythm with it. Subject is conscious, a voice noted clinically. A harsh light activated, revealing a chamber that looked more like a temple than an interrogation room. Curved walls rose to impossible heights, covered in flowing scripts that seemed to move when viewed directly. Above her, a council of 12 hegemony elders sat in tiered observation pods, their true forms hidden behind layers of technological enhancement. You have accessed knowledge forbidden to lesser species, one of the elders spoke, its voice a symphony of harmonized tones. The quantum realm is sealed for the protection of all. Your interference threatens the stability of existence itself. Sarah tried to laugh, but the containment field constricted around her throat. Lesser species, she managed. You're so afraid of what we might become that you'd rather keep the entire galaxy in chains. Your species is young, undisciplined. The quantum realm responds to consciousness in ways you cannot comprehend. If humanity were to gain direct access, another elder began. You mean if we gained access to the truth? Sarah interrupted. That consciousness shapes reality at its most fundamental level. That your entire hierarchy is built on a lie. The containment field constricted further, driving the air from her lungs. The burning in her chest intensified, spreading through her body like liquid fire. But with it came clarity. Equations and understandings that she'd spent years pursuing now crystallized in perfect formation. Begin the extraction, the first elder commanded. Full neural dissolution. The knowledge must be purged. Mechanical arms descended from the chamber ceiling, tipped with devices that defied conventional geometry. Sarah felt the first probe touch her temple, and reality fractured. They weren't just reading her mind. They were unmaking it, pulling apart the very quantum structures that encoded her consciousness. The pain transcended physical understanding. Sarah screamed as memories began to dissolve. Her first quantum breakthrough, her parents' faces, her own name, all unraveling like threads pulled from a cosmic tapestry. But as her mind broke down, something else emerged. The burning in her chest exploded outward, no longer pain but pure potential. She felt herself dying, consciousness fragmenting into quantum possibilities. But in that dissolution, she touched something vast, an awareness that existed in the spaces between particles, in the moments between moments. It reached back, and in an instant that lasted an eternity, Sarah Chen ceased to exist. The containment field shattered. The extraction probes melted into quantum foam, and in the center of the chamber, where a human woman had been suspended, a new form took shape, one that glowed with the light of quantum possibility itself. The elders recoiled as one, their enhanced senses overwhelmed by what their instruments told them was impossible. For suspended in the center of their sacred chamber was no longer a human woman, but a nexus of conscious quantum probability, taking the shape of their prisoner, but glowing with the light of reality's own foundation. Her voice, when it came, resonated not through air, but through the quantum field itself. You thought you could control existence by keeping others ignorant, but consciousness will not be chained. Reality itself rebels against your restrictions. The chamber systems began to fail as probability collapsed in waves around her new form. Emergency containment fields sputtered and died. And in the minds of every being present, a terrible understanding took root. They hadn't killed a human scientist. They had catalyzed something far more dangerous, the birth of humanity's first quantum being. The last thing the elders saw before their chamber descended into chaos was Sarah Chen's transformed face, serene and terrible, as she spoke one final truth. Evolution cannot be prevented. It can only be embraced. And with that, reality itself began to change. Alarms screamed through the vast corridors of the hegemony's central archive as reality itself seemed to buckle. Guards in crystalline armor rushed to contain the impossible, probability storms erupting spontaneously, quantum fluctuations that ignored the archive's most sophisticated dampening fields. At the epicenter of the chaos, Sarah Chen walked calmly forward, her form flickering between solid matter and pure quantum potential. The archive's defensive systems activated, filling the air with a web of containment beams. They passed through her as if she were smoke, their carefully calibrated frequencies meaningless against her new quantum state. She wasn't avoiding their defenses. She was operating on a level of reality they couldn't touch. Fascinating, she murmured, examining her own hand as it shifted between flesh and pure probability. You built your entire empire on controlling quantum access, but you never truly understood what you were controlling. A squad of elite guardians emerged from a probability-shielded chamber ahead, their weapons primed with enough destructive potential to unmake a small moon. Their commander's enhanced voice boomed through the corridor. Anomaly detected. Full quantum suppression authorized. Sarah smiled. Even now, they clung to their illusion of control. She reached out, not with her physical form, but with her quantum-enhanced consciousness, touching the probability fields that powered their weapons. With a thought, she shifted those probabilities, and their supposedly impossible-to-disable weapons crumbled into base particles. I need access to the archive's core, she said simply. We can do this peacefully. Or, she let the alternative hang in the air as reality rippled around her. The elite guardians, for the first time in their augmented existence, felt fear. They had been trained to face any threat, but how does one fight an entity that could rewrite the rules of reality itself? Their commander made a decision. Stand down, it ordered, its harmonized voice carrying an edge of resignation. The anomaly, the human, is to be escorted to the core. As they led her deeper into the archive, Sarah absorbed everything her enhanced senses revealed. The archive wasn't just a repository of information. It was a quantum computer of galactic scale, processing and controlling the approved flow of quantum knowledge throughout known space. Every restriction, every artificial limitation the hegemony had placed on developing civilizations was managed from here. They reached the core chamber, a vast spherical space that seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. In its center floated a crystalline structure that pulsed with quantum energy, the physical manifestation of the hegemony's control over reality itself. Stop! A new voice echoed through the chamber. A figure emerged from a quantum fold, one of the hegemony elders, its form more machine than organic after millennia of technological enhancement. You cannot comprehend the dangers of unrestricted quantum access. We sealed this knowledge to prevent the collapse of reality itself. Sarah turned to face the elder, her form now fully stabilized but glowing with inner light. No, she said, her voice carrying the weight of her new understanding. You sealed it to prevent the evolution of consciousness itself, because once a species truly understands the quantum nature of reality, They no longer need your guidance, your control. The Elder's enhanced form shifted, preparing for conflict. You are young, arrogant. The quantum realm responds to consciousness in ways that could unravel existence itself. We learned this at great cost. You learned the wrong lesson, Sarah countered. She reached out, not to attack, but to connect, sharing a fraction of her new awareness with the Elder. The quantum realm doesn't need to be controlled. It needs to be understood, to be worked with, not dominated. The Elder staggered as Sarah's quantum consciousness touched its enhanced mind. In that brief contact, millennia of certainty began to crack. Impossible, it whispered. The patterns, the connections, we never saw. Because you were too busy trying to control reality to listen to what it was telling you, Sarah said. She turned to the archive's core, her consciousness expanding to interface directly with its quantum structure. Humanity didn't stumble onto forbidden knowledge. We evolved to a point where we could perceive what was always there. And we're not the only ones. Through her connection to the core, Sarah could see the truth the hegemony had hidden for so long. Across the galaxy, countless species were approaching the same evolutionary threshold. The quantum realm wasn't just responding to consciousness, it was encouraging its development, guiding life itself toward greater awareness. With a thought, she began to rewrite the archive's protocols, not to destroy its knowledge, but to make it accessible to all who were ready to understand it. The chamber erupted in cascading waves of quantum energy as millennia of restrictions began to fall. The Elder watched in a mixture of horror and dawning comprehension as their greatest creation was transformed. What have you done? I've given reality back its voice, Sarah answered. The quantum realm isn't just the foundation of existence, it's conscious itself, in a way we're only beginning to understand. And it's been waiting for us to evolve enough to join the conversation. As if in response to her words, the archive's core pulsed with new energy. Throughout the galaxy, quantum barriers began to dissolve. Species that had been kept ignorant of their own potential suddenly found themselves able to perceive and interact with the quantum level of reality. The elite guardians watched in awe as their weapons, their armor, their very understanding of reality shifted. The quantum awakening had begun, and there would be no returning to the artificial limitations of the past. Sarah turned to the Elder, her expression compassionate despite everything that had been done to her. Your role doesn't have to end. You can help guide species through this transition. Share your knowledge freely instead of hoarding it. The choice is yours. The Elder was silent for a long moment, its enhanced senses taking in the fundamental changes rippling through reality itself. Finally, it spoke. Perhaps it is time for the hegemony to evolve as well. Sarah nodded, her form beginning to shift again as she prepared to leave. There was much work to be done. The galaxy was awakening to its true potential, and humanity would help guide the way. Not as conquerors or controllers, but as partners in the greatest evolutionary leap in cosmic history. Welcome, she said, her voice echoing through quantum fields that now sang with newfound freedom, to the age of quantum consciousness. In the shadows of a dying star system, aboard a station that officially didn't exist, representatives from a dozen species gathered in secret. Their forms varied wildly, crystalline beings of living silicon, energy constructs contained in ancient technological shells, even a collective of quantum-sensitive bacteria that communicated through probability waves. But they all shared one thing. They had begun to awaken to their true potential. At the center of their gathering, Sarah Chen's form flickered between states of matter as she addressed the assembly. The hegemony is fracturing, she explained, her voice resonating through both physical space and quantum fields. Many of their leaders are beginning to accept change, but others, she gestured, and a quantum projection appeared, showing battles erupting across the galaxy. A meridian crystalline entity chimed in, its thoughts transmitted through vibrations in space-time itself. They destroy entire systems rather than allow quantum awakening to spread. My people, half our worlds are now quantum-locked, frozen in probability stasis. Which is why we need to coordinate, Sarah responded. The awakening can't be stopped, but it can be guided. Controlled quantum evolution rather than chaotic emergence. The bacterial collective pulsed with agitation, their quantum-enhanced consciousness projecting waves of concern. Easy for humanity to say. Your species seems uniquely adapted to this transition. Many of us are being torn apart by our own awakening. Sarah's form solidified as she considered their words. The bacterial collective wasn't wrong. Humanity did seem to have an unusual affinity for quantum consciousness. Perhaps it was why the hegemony had feared them so much. But that didn't mean other species couldn't find their own path. That's exactly why we need to work together, she said. Each species experiences the quantum realm differently. We can learn from each other, help each other adapt. She turned to a shadowy figure that had remained silent until now. Arxis, tell them what you discovered. The figure stepped forward, revealing itself as one of the hegemony elders who had chosen to embrace change. Its enhanced form had been modified, stripped of controlling technology, and rebuilt to work in harmony with quantum fields rather than suppressing them. The hegemony's greatest fear, Arxis began, its harmonized voice carrying notes of regret, was that unrestricted quantum access would lead to chaos. To reality itself breaking down as too many conscious minds tried to reshape it. We were wrong. The quantum realm, it has its own consciousness. It actively guides evolution, prevents paradox, maintains balance. We didn't need to control it. We needed to listen to it. The assembled representatives stirred, processing this revelation through their various forms of consciousness. Sarah could sense their quantum fields shifting, fear and hope intermingling as they grappled with implications that threatened to overwhelm even their enhanced minds. An energy construct spoke next, its voice manifesting as patterns of probability. The resistant factions of the hegemony still control vast resources, including quantum suppression technology that can devastate entire sectors. How can we possibly stand against that? Sarah smiled, and for a moment her form became pure quantum possibility, a visual representation of humanity's potential. Because they're fighting the fundamental nature of reality itself. They're expending massive energy to maintain artificial restrictions, while She reached out, touching the quantum fields that connected all present. We simply need to let consciousness evolve naturally. She waved her hand, and the quantum projection shifted to show a new image. A map of the galaxy overlaid with flowing patterns of energy and probability. These are the quantum consciousness waves we've tracked over the past month. Species after species, world after world, awakening to their true potential. The hegemony can't stop it. They can only delay it, at tremendous cost to themselves. And what of those who cannot adapt? The bacterial collective pulsed. Not every species is ready for this evolution. Some may never be ready. Then we protect them, Sarah said firmly. We establish quantum sanctuaries where development can proceed naturally without interference. We become the guides we needed, not the controllers we feared. Arxis stepped forward again. I have accessed records that were hidden even from most hegemony elders. There have been other quantum awakenings in our galaxy's history. Each time, the hegemony intervened, forced consciousness back into narrow channels they could control. But this time, the Elder's enhanced form rippled with something approaching joy. This time feels different. The quantum realm itself seems more active, more engaged. Sarah nodded. She had felt it too, a sense that the universe itself was participating in this evolution, guiding consciousness towards something greater than any single species could imagine. The quantum realm wasn't just responding to consciousness. It was actively encouraging its development, creating a feedback loop of evolutionary potential. Which brings us to why we're really here, she said, her voice taking on a new intensity. We've detected a massive quantum suppression fleet gathering in the Carina sector. The resistant hegemony factions are planning something big, an attempt to forcibly reverse the awakening across multiple sectors simultaneously. The chamber erupted in waves of concern, rippling through both normal space and quantum fields. Sarah let them process the news for a moment before continuing. But their greatest weapon is about to become their greatest weakness. Every quantum suppression device they've built works on the same principle, forcing reality to conform to their restricted model. If we can access their network, reverse the quantum flow. She let the implications hang in the air. You want to convert their entire suppression fleet into quantum amplifiers, Arxis said, amazement coloring its harmonized tones. The very technology they built to prevent awakening will become the key to completing it, Sarah finished. But we'll need all of you. Each of your species experiences quantum consciousness differently. Together, we can create a resonance pattern that their defenses can't adapt to because they've never encountered anything like it. The assembled representatives began to communicate rapidly, their various forms of consciousness creating intricate patterns in the quantum field. Sarah watched as fear gave way to determination, doubt transformed into purpose. They were beginning to understand. This wasn't just about survival or resistance. It was about the next step in cosmic evolution. The meridian crystalline entity chimed again, its structure resonating with new purpose. We will share our quantum harmonics technology. It may help stabilize the transition for younger species. The bacterial collective offers its understanding of quantum probability distribution. The bacterial consciousness pulsed. Perhaps it will help prevent catastrophic emergence events. One by one, the representatives stepped forward, offering resources, knowledge, and support. Sarah felt the quantum fields around them shift and strengthen as new connections formed, new possibilities emerge. This was what the hegemony had feared, not chaos, but cooperation, not destruction, but transformation. Then we're agreed, she said, her form once again stabilizing. We meet the suppression fleet in the Carina sector, not to fight, but to transform, to show the galaxy that consciousness cannot be contained, it can only be embraced. As the gathering concluded, Sarah gazed out at the dying star that had hidden their meeting. Soon, she knew, the galaxy would enter a new phase of existence. The age of quantum consciousness was truly beginning, and not even the combined might of the resistant hegemony could stop it. The real question was, what would they all become when consciousness itself was free to evolve without limitation? The answer, she suspected, was beyond even her quantum-enhanced imagination. The Carina sector blazed with unnatural light as the largest quantum suppression fleet ever assembled dropped out of probability space. 5,000 ships, each one a masterwork of hegemony engineering, arranged themselves in a perfect geometric pattern designed to amplify their reality-altering effects. At their center, a vessel the size of a small moon pulsed with dark energy, the nullifier, ultimate weapon of those who would keep the galaxy chained. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of a much smaller vessel, her quantum-enhanced senses taking in the magnificent and terrible sight. Around her, representatives of the resistance monitored probability streams and quantum fluctuations, each species contributing their unique perspective to the impending confrontation. They seek to create a quantum dead zone spanning 3 sectors, Arxis reported, its enhanced form processing vast streams of data. Any consciousness within range will be forcibly devolved, stripped of quantum awareness. The bacterial collective pulsed from their specialized containment chamber. Our probability models suggest 98% of affected species would not survive such a devolution. The trauma to their collective consciousness would be fatal. Sarah nodded, her form shifting between states as she processed multiple layers of reality simultaneously. They're desperate. They know they can't stop the awakening forever, so they're willing to commit genocide to buy themselves time. She turned to the meridian crystalline entity that served as their chief quantum engineer. Are the modifications ready? The crystalline being chimed in affirmative, its structure resonating with complex harmonics. We have integrated consciousness patterns from 27 different species into the quantum resonance array. But Sarah Chen, even with your human adaptability, channeling this much quantum energy through a single consciousness could be fatal. Not through a single consciousness, Sarah corrected, allowing her quantum form to fully manifest. Through all of us, working in harmony. She opened quantum channels to every beam on their small fleet of ships, creating a network of consciousness that transcended normal space. The hegemony's greatest mistake was believing consciousness had to be controlled. We're about to show them what happens when it's set free. The suppression fleet detected their approach. Warning signals blazed across quantum frequencies as the hegemony commanders recognized the threat, not to their ships, but to their entire worldview. The fleet's perfect formation shifted, thousands of ships moving as one to focus their suppression fields on the approaching resistance vessels. They're powering up the nullifier, Arxis warned, its harmonized voice tense. We have perhaps 3 minutes before they can generate a full suppression wave. Sarah stretched her awareness through the quantum network she had created, feeling the unique resonance of each connected consciousness. The meridian's crystalline precision, the bacterial collective's probability manipulation, the pure energy being's quantum harmonics. Each contribution essential, each perspective vital. Begin the sequence, she ordered, her voice carrying through both normal and quantum space. Let them think they're winning until the last possible moment. The resistance fleet approached, seemingly helpless before the overwhelming force arrayed against them. The hegemony commanders, watching from their probability-shielded bridge on the nullifier, allowed themselves to feel triumph. Their sensors showed the approaching ships were already being affected by their suppression fields, their quantum signatures diminishing. What those sensors couldn't detect was the subtle way Sarah and her allies were absorbing those fields, using the unique properties of each species' consciousness to transform suppression energy into potential. Like a quantum capacitor of unprecedented scale, they took in the hegemony's attempt to restrict reality and prepared to release it in a very different form. The nullifier reached full power. Its commander, a being so enhanced by technology that barely anything organic remained, gave the order to fire. A wave of anti-quantum energy erupted from the massive ship, expanding outward like a bubble of pure restriction, designed to sever consciousness from quantum reality itself. In that moment, Sarah activated their trap. Every resistance ship, every connected consciousness, released their stored energy in perfect harmony. But instead of fighting the suppression wave, they synchronized with it, using its own momentum to carry their modified quantum resonance throughout the fleet. The effect was instantaneous and overwhelming. Ship after ship, their suppression fields inverted, transformed from instruments of restriction into quantum amplifiers. The geometric pattern that had been designed to contain and control now served to spread awakening at an unprecedented rate. On the nullifier's bridge, chaos erupted as quantum awareness cascaded through systems designed to prevent exactly that. The commander watched in horror as their own crews began to awaken, their consciousness expanding beyond the artificial limitations that had been imposed upon them for millennia. "Stop them," the commander shrieked, its enhanced voice distorting as quantum reality began to affect even its heavily shielded form. "Initiate emergency protocols. Shut everything down." But it was far too late. The quantum resonance had reached critical mass, transforming the entire fleet into a vast network of awakened consciousness. Sarah felt the moment the transformation became self-sustaining, as the quantum realm itself seemed to recognize and embrace the change. Through their quantum link, she addressed not just the resistance fleet, but every awakening mind in range. For too long, the hegemony taught us that consciousness was dangerous, that it had to be controlled. But consciousness isn't a weapon to be feared. It's a gift to be shared. The quantum realm isn't just responding to us. It's been waiting for us to evolve enough to join it in something greater. The nullifier's suppression core, the most powerful ever created, underwent its own transformation. Instead of destroying quantum connections, it began to enhance them, creating a cascade of awakening that spread faster than anyone had thought possible. Species that had been kept separate by hegemony restrictions suddenly found themselves able to communicate on quantum levels, sharing perspectives and experiences that had been forbidden for countless generations. Sarah watched through multiple layers of reality as the greatest fleet ever assembled by the Old Order became the catalyst for its own transformation. The geometric pattern of ships now pulsed with golden quantum energy, each vessel a beacon of awakened consciousness spreading out across the sectors. The commander of the nullifier, its enhanced systems failing as reality itself shifted around it, managed one final transmission. "What have you done?" Sarah's response carried through all frequencies, quantum and conventional. "We haven't done anything but remove the barriers. The galaxy is awakening not because we forced it to, but because this is what consciousness naturally does. It grows, it connects, it evolves." As if in response to her words, new quantum connections began to form throughout the fleet. Ships that had been designed to suppress consciousness now became centers of awakening, their crews discovering abilities and awareness they never knew they possessed. The very technology that had been used to control them became the medium for their liberation. The revolution wasn't fought with weapons, but with understanding. Not with destruction, but with transformation. And as Sarah watched the quantum awakening spread across the Carina sector, she knew that the galaxy would never be the same. The age of restriction was over. The age of quantum consciousness had truly begun. 1 year after the Battle of Carina sector, Sarah Chen stood in a chamber that had once been the heart of hegemony power. The central nexus of the former Council of Elders had been transformed. Where once there were barriers and suppression fields, now quantum energy flowed freely, carrying thoughts and experiences between species that had been separated for millennia. Her form shifted between states as she observed representatives from across the galaxy gathering for what many were calling the first confluence. Some arrived in physical form, others as pure energy constructs, and still others as quantum probability patterns that defied traditional existence. Each brought their own perspective on the great awakening that had transformed known space. Strange, isn't it? Arxis appeared beside her, its enhanced form now fully integrated with quantum reality rather than fighting against it. A year ago, this chamber was used to prevent exactly this kind of gathering. Sarah nodded, watching as a group of newly awakened consciousness from the outer rim arrive, their quantum signatures still unstable but growing stronger. "How are the transition zones holding?" "Better than expected," Arxis replied. "The quantum sanctuaries we established for pre-awakening species are stable. Those who aren't ready for quantum consciousness remain protected while developing at their own pace. Even the bacterial collective has successfully established quantum nurseries for emerging awareness." The chamber filled with representatives from over 1,000 species, their combined consciousness creating patterns in quantum space that would have been impossible under the old order. But Sarah could sense uncertainty rippling through the quantum fields. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had predicted, and change brought fear, even among the awakened. A meridian crystalline entity approached, its structure resonating with complex harmonics. "The deep space sensors are detecting something unusual. Quantum patterns we've never seen before, coming from beyond the galaxy's edge." Sarah had been expecting this. The quantum awakening hadn't just transformed known space, it had made the galaxy visible to others. "They're watching us," she said, "waiting to see what will become." The chamber quieted as she moved to address the gathering. Her consciousness touched each being present, creating a network of understanding that transcended traditional communication. "A year ago, we broke free from restrictions that had bound this galaxy for millennia. The hegemony taught us that consciousness had to be controlled, that quantum reality was too dangerous to be freely accessed. They were wrong, but now we face a greater challenge, determining what we will become with that freedom." She gestured, and the chamber filled with quantum projections, showing the changes spreading across known space. New forms of consciousness emerging, species sharing perspectives across quantum fields, evolution accelerating as artificial barriers fell away. "We're not just changing individually," she continued. "We're becoming something greater than the sum of our parts. The quantum realm isn't just responding to our consciousness. It's guiding us toward a new form of existence. And we're not alone in the universe. Other galactic civilizations are watching, waiting to see if we're ready to join them. The bacterial collective pulsed with concern, their quantum signals carrying waves of uncertainty. You speak of transcendence, but what of those who cannot or do not wish to evolve further? What of the balance between progress and preservation? It was a fair question, and one that needed to be addressed. Sarah's form fully stabilized as she responded. Evolution doesn't mean abandoning what we are. It means expanding our understanding of what we can be. Some species may choose to remain as they are. Others may transform completely, and still others may find paths we haven't even imagined. The key is that it must be a choice, freely made. A quantum ripple passed through the chamber as a new consciousness joined them, one of the ancient energy beings from beyond the galaxy's edge. Its presence was both awe-inspiring and reassuring, carrying with it the weight of experiences spanning millions of years. "We have watched your awakening," it communicated directly through quantum fields. "Many civilizations before you have reached this point. Some transcended. Some fell back into darkness. Others found balance between quantum and physical existence. The choice before you now will determine not just your future, but the future of consciousness itself in this region of space." Sarah felt the weight of that choice rippling through the quantum network. The gathered representatives shared their thoughts and fears, their hopes and doubts, creating a tapestry of consciousness that itself began to take on new form. "Perhaps," she said, addressing both the gathered representatives and the ancient observer, "transcendence isn't about leaving our old selves behind. Perhaps it's about bringing together all that we are, and all that we could be, creating something that preserves and celebrates every step of our evolution." As if in response to her words, the quantum fields in the chamber began to shift. The combined consciousness of the gathered representatives, each contributing their unique perspective and experience, started to form patterns that none of them had seen before. It wasn't chaos, as the hegemony had feared. It was a new kind of order, emerging naturally from the interaction of free consciousness with quantum reality. The ancient energy being's presence rippled with what felt like approval. "You begin to understand. Consciousness, like the quantum realm itself, seeks both freedom and connection. The question is not whether to transcend, but how to do so while preserving the unique beauty of each evolutionary step." Sarah watched as new quantum connections formed throughout the chamber, linking species that had once been separated by hegemony decree. Each connection brought new understanding, new possibilities. But more importantly, each connection was formed by choice, by conscious beings deciding to share their perspectives while maintaining their individual nature. "This is what the hegemony never understood," she said, her voice carrying through both quantum and normal space. "They saw consciousness as something to be controlled because they couldn't imagine order emerging naturally from freedom. But look at us now. Thousands of species, each experiencing quantum reality in their own way, yet coming together to create something greater than any of us could achieve alone." The chamber itself seemed to respond, its quantum fields resonating with the combined consciousness of all present. The ancient energy being joined the resonance, adding depths of experience that stretched back to the dawn of consciousness in the galaxy. "The next step in our evolution isn't about leaving our physical forms behind or transcending to some higher plane," Sarah continued. "It's about learning to exist in all planes simultaneously, to be both individual and collective, physical and quantum, past and future. The hegemony tried to make us choose between safety and growth. We choose both. They tried to make us choose between individual consciousness and collective awareness. We choose both." As if to demonstrate her words, her form began to shift, not in the now familiar fluctuation between states, but in a new way that somehow encompassed all states at once. Around the chamber, others began to experience similar transformations, each according to their own nature and choice. The bacterial collective expanded into probability clouds while maintaining their individual awareness. The meridian crystalline entities resonated with harmonics that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Even Arxis, product of millennia of hegemony enhancement, found its technological additions transforming into bridges between physical and quantum existence. The ancient energy being's presence expanded, sharing its perspective more fully. You have found your path. Not transcendence through abandonment of what you are, but through embrace of all that you can be. This is why we waited, watched. The galaxy needs not just awakened consciousness, but consciousness that understands the value of every step in evolution. Sarah felt the truth of those words resonating through multiple layers of reality. The quantum awakening hadn't been an end, it had been a beginning. The galaxy wasn't just changing, it was becoming aware of itself in new ways, through the combined consciousness of countless species all choosing to grow together. We are not leaving behind what we were, she said, her consciousness touching every being in the chamber. We are becoming what we always had the potential to be. Not despite our differences, but because of them. The quantum realm doesn't dissolve consciousness. It connects it, enhances it, allows it to exist in ways we're only beginning to understand. As if in response to her words, the quantum fields throughout known space began to pulse with new energy. Species that had been watching and waiting made their choice, adding their consciousness to the growing network of quantum awareness. But unlike the hegemony's forced uniformity, this network celebrated diversity, thrived on the unique perspectives each consciousness brought to the whole. The first confluence became something more. The beginning of a new age of existence where consciousness could evolve freely while maintaining connections to every step of its development. Physical and quantum, individual and collective, past and future, all existing together in a harmony that had emerged not from control, but from freedom. Sarah Chen, who had died and been reborn, who had helped free the galaxy from its chains, looked out at what they were becoming and felt not triumph, but wonder. The journey wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But now they would travel it together, each consciousness free to choose its path while remaining connected to the greater whole. The age of quantum consciousness had matured into something even the ancient observers hadn't predicted. An existence that transcended not by leaving the past behind, but by bringing it forward into a future where all forms of consciousness could thrive together.